White Sox fans, it is Side Sox Podcast 118. And you may say, Brett, this is the numbers. They're not really matching up. The numbers are jumping all over the place. You identify one, and then the title says, listen, they don't pay me to count at SB Nation. I mean, arguably, sorry, SB Nation, they really sort of don't pay me at all. But anyhow, listen, I am not paid to count. So just whatever this is, I think it's number 118. If it matches up funny, 5 years from now, when you want to learn about Comerica Park in Detroit and you're looking this podcast up, hey man, just roll with it. Okay. Just roll with it. We are here at podcast 118, quote unquote, to talk first and foremost about the ballpark in Detroit. And then in the second half, we can't avoid it. We got to talk about the White Sox and their playoff chances and the general biorhythms we're feeling about the team itself. But two people at the park, at least one on Saturday, one for the whole weekend, because why not? Let's spend the whole weekend and let's secure a series win. It's Elizabeth Gonzales and Chrystal O'Keefe. Thank you both for joining up for this Detroit talk.
Anytime. I'm always here anyway.
You're right. We don't. Yeah, you don't want to know behind the scenes, but we just never let Chrystal leave.
I just here, live in Zoom.
Yes, covering dozens of games, maybe hundreds of games for us by the time this is over. But of course, I don't want to run her off. And listen, let's just lead off with the fact that the White Sox, as you threatened them, if they didn't win on Saturday, you were out. You were going to give up. And Chrystal, they won on Saturday. They made it very exciting for you, but they did win. It sort of rewarded the breakneck trip you took in the first place to get there and get back. So you didn't lie. You're like totally on board for these last 2 weeks.
I'm on board. I would have preferred they made it more exciting early on so that it didn't go into extras, because the girl was tired and she had to be up at 5 a.m. the next day. But it was fun. I mean, they made it happen. Yeah, so all in.
All right. And you found the energy to meet up with Elizabeth before the game. We have the picture to prove it to Southside Sox. In fact, I think more than that, but at least two that actually identified themselves to one another. Elizabeth, this park seemed to make a pretty good impression on you. Given that we just talked Seattle and Oakland, let's just let you take the baton there and talk about how Comerica comps with them and sort of where it's ranking for you.
Yeah, so I definitely did like it. I think I tweeted that out like 2 seconds after setting foot into the park this time. I think what I like most about the park is everything is intentional in terms of like detail specific to either Detroit or the Tigers. There are, of course, entertainment aspects that are in every park, but all of those seem really intentional to keep the focus on Detroit specifically. Obviously, their mascot is the Tigers, and you don't really see Comerica very often in the park other than like on the dugout. So I really appreciated that. But there's no detail too small in that park to not remind you of exactly where you are at all times. So I liked that aspect about it for sure.
And they haven't changed the name yet. So I guess it'd be forgiven for even Detroit area fans to call it Comerica Park, unlike at least my preference with the White Sox, just call it Sox Park, because the corporate sponsorships are they're obnoxious in the White Sox case. There's nothing that flows at all. And at some point when you're switching them like every 5 years, let's just call it Sox Park. This is becoming too much of a chase. But Chrystal, your impression, you'd been to Detroit before, the ballpark there before, but so how's it rank and what's the vibe there for you?
I really enjoy that park too, but what I appreciate the most is how kid-friendly that park truly is. And like Elizabeth just mentioned, they have all these great details. Like they have this carousel and it's only tigers on the carousel, which I thought was cute. And they've got like their Ferris wheel and that whole kind of area that you can walk in. They have like all the really good food and the carousel and just all these things you can interact with. And then the team store. So it's like they know what they're doing in terms of a park. And then they have like a daiquiri booth that Elizabeth,
in case things went the wrong way on Saturday, you had already figured out you're out. That's good.
Yeah. My kids walked out saying that was their new favorite park. They've been to 4 now. They put Guaranteed Rate Field last, and I said I don't blame you. It's not the best, But yeah, I mean, they loved it. My husband loved it. We had a really good time, and there aren't really bad seats there. Like, we intentionally got up in 300 level because that's where a friend of mine was sitting anyway. And we get up there and like we're right behind first base or home plate, I mean, and you can just see everything. It's just a stunning view. That park is really pretty. So
That's another one of the many downtown parks. Detroit doesn't have maybe as impressive or a standout a skyline as you might see, or at least from the ballpark vistas you see in Pittsburgh, and even, forgive me for saying it, Elizabeth, in Minneapolis. But I mean, it's still there. Bonus points, maybe not, maybe not, given the fact that they were playing, and then there was some auto show as well. But bonus points for the proximity, I guess, to the was it Ford Field or where the football field is. That sort of convenience. I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but certainly means that everything sports wise is sort of somewhat centrally located.
The new Red Wings stadium is right there too.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. You walk out and it's like big theaters, it's Red Wings and Hockey Town, and then right across the street is Ford Field. Like, it's really cool because that whole like city, that area there, it's just so vibrant, and it's just fun, and there are always people out and music to be played, and then you have your 3 major sports teams just right there. So it's a cool place to go.
Sorry, Pistons. Are the Pistons playing there too? Is it both? I don't even know if
we don't care about Pistons.
Yeah, we don't care about the Pistons. Fox Theater. And last time I'd been, gosh, we're talking about 10 years ago. So I mean, I'm sure the area itself, I mean, it was maybe Detroit was just beginning maybe to come back at that point, or was certainly still on its climb. And so I imagine, the vibrancy there and the excitement of being sort of so central there where everything is going on has got to be increased.
It was very hectic though that weekend because, like you said, there was the auto show. Chris Rock was playing across the street at Fox Theater, and Eminem has that new restaurant, Mom Spaghetti, and those lines were just wrapped around the block.
Eminem
and
has
then
a restaurant.
The Lions played the next day, so it was pretty crazy weekend.
Yeah, I'm old enough to have been to Tiger Stadium, and that was quite a ballpark too. It was a quirky ballpark, and the thing I really stood out to me there was how close you were to home plate. There was no foul territory behind home plate, and that was sort of a cool quirk. And imagine we did not have seats there. We were underneath that weird home run overhang where balls just go to die, and you just lose them. You can't even see them. But boy, if you had seats anywhere, anywhere between the dugouts, I'd say, man, it would have to feel like you were right on top of the action. But that's the old park. We're not going to talk about that. So overall, pretty high marks overall. Now, Elizabeth, is this standing as your favorite at this point? I mean, I know, it's like naming your favorite kid. I mean, you're always going, okay, the last one I went to, I loved it. It was so wonderful. But, right off the bat, you were pretty impressed. And it's not to diss Seattle, or well, it is to diss Minnesota. It's certainly not to diss Oakland because they're not really in this competition. 29 good ballparks and one or 28 and a couple bad. But is it holding up upon reflection and come back home in that as pretty strong, if not best?
Yeah, I would say T-Mobile Park and Comerica is probably top 2 for me at this point. I would say for sure, at least like in the Midwest, it's probably up there for me, at least against the teams that compete in AL Central.
So again, the fact that Tigers fans are in Comerica Park is not as annoying to you as Twins fans being at Target Field.
So I wasn't going to bring it up, but
we're talking
it was a conversation. So for the people that don't know or haven't run across me out on the tour, if you will, I have been bringing my mom with me. So we kind of discuss things after, and I'm kind of going over things in my head of what we liked or didn't, or asking her if I'm forgetting any details, things of that nature. So the only unfortunate thing I will say about this park compared to all the others is some of the fans were a little bit nasty, and I hadn't experienced that in any of the other parks. So that obviously it could have just been a few of the fans that I happen to be sitting around. It was weird to me because their team wasn't competing for anything. So I didn't really understand the nastiness as compared to like the Mariners fans, for example, who were basically just hanging on a prayer that their team's going to make playoffs, which is funny because they're so talented this year. So that was interesting to me. the people at the park were amazing. I had great conversations, and to Chrystal's point, it's so built up. I had multiple conversations with people in the park, out of the park, just around the Detroit area. And Dan Gilbert kept coming up of he was investing in making Detroit what it is right now. He's the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that was interesting. But yeah, people are sleeping on the city of Detroit. It's back, and I enjoyed my time there. But not so much some of the nasty fans, but that's
so okay. So this just really comes out of you being, just showing up with your mind. You got Sox gear and just not being made to feel very welcome.
Yeah, so it was like later on. The first particular group of fans were like later on in the first game when it went into extras, and they were fans that weren't even sitting in that section. I have no idea where they came from. They were like younger. The one guy was like 24. He even told me what his name was or how old he was. So they were just yelling like nasty stuff at our players, which I don't, that's just not the kind of fan that I am. I know some people like to do that and they get enjoyment out of that. That's just not me. I'm positive through and through. I think some people heard me screaming on one of the Oakland broadcasts. So sorry about that. It is a distinct voice. I got a lot of texts and DMs about that, but that was the one instance. And then one of the other days, I think it was the day that Chrystal was there. There was a fan wearing a Javi Baez jersey sitting in front of me. It was a Wrigleyville Javi Baez, that's worth noting. And at one point, Eloy got hit with the ball. And earlier on in the game, he was yelling out like, "Thanks, Cubs," which, okay, if you want to give him credit for something, sure. And then later on, when Eloy got hit with the pitch, he was like, "Hit him again." And I just didn't understand that. So just kind of things that didn't need to be said as far as I'm concerned. But the people that worked there were lovely. I had really great conversations with a lot of them, including one of the ushers on the last day that told me that she actually hoped that we were winning because they weren't playing for anything, and it was never going to be the Guardians for her. So she was cheering on the White Sox. So I appreciated that.
Well, shout out to EG's mom. Sorry to understand that. I know the few times I got into games with my mom, she would not hesitate to report people were being obnoxious. Unfortunately, you usually ended up at crosstown games. I don't know how that ended up happening, but yeah, she would not hesitate to go up and scold and just force the embarrassment of an usher having to come and say, "Hey, could you guys cool it down with like the nonstop cussing?" But
yeah.
Yeah, now, okay, that's not a fun. Yeah, that's a good color experience. So Detroit, I'm sorry to say, listen, don't mean to color the city, but you are on notice. Let's clean it up a little bit. It might be more fun when like you're actually playing for something, or I don't know, Javier Baez is like retired by then, because man, oh man, you're not going to get your money's worth on that contract. Sorry, Tigers fan, sorry. But all right, anyway, that's Detroit. It's a wrap. It's a nice park. We can all agree. I would not put it at the top. I'm thinking Chrystal's not putting it at the top. But right now, despite that experience, despite the confused, borderline nasty fans in a couple of experiences, Elizabeth's still giving it a pretty good thumbs up. So, let's see where you rank at the end of the year. Let's take a quick break. Let's come on back and talk White Sox. For some reason, let's talk about them. I got two fans who have pledged to go to October 5th, October 3rd, whatever it is, down with the ship with the White Sox, if the ship is to go down. Hang with us. If you're one of those fans, hang with us for a minute, and we'll be talking White Sox specific when we come back. White Sox fans, it's podcast, rumored has it, quote unquote, number 118. Do not check my math. Please don't. There's no point. It's always going to be wrong. We talked first half, Comerica Park, Detroit experience. Detroit's back, baby. We were all Detroiters for the first half of the podcast, but now we're not. We're White Sox fans again. Chrystal, we know, has renewed her devotion and dedication to the White Sox simply because they won for her. They rewarded her breakneck trip with family to Comerica Park to see them. They teased her with that extra innings game, but they won. So she's now obligated, if not to pick up more writing assignments, at least to root until it's all done.
I did pick up more assignments just today.
Yes, you did, Chrystal. You just can't. It's like a reflex action. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it, and bless you for it, because otherwise it falls on me. So thank you, Chrystal. Thanks for taking one for the team again. And Elizabeth, she's it seems just hardcore enough to say, listen, I am going down with these guys. I'm not going to root against my team. I'm not going to laugh at my team. I'm just in it. It has nothing to do with the ballpark tour. It has nothing to do with being a Southside Sox member, because if it did, she probably would be more embittered. So we'll wait till next year for that, Elizabeth. But okay, we got two guests here who are just on board. It's not that I'm not, but certainly compared to my two lovely guests, I'm going to be a little bit more cynical. Okay, let's catch up quickly. With the win today, the White Sox are 4 games behind Cleveland. Cleveland's magic number down to 12. White Sox chances of winning the division 10% on Fangraphs. Although don't get too depressed, they have a 1.6 chance at the wild card. Okay, so that's 11.6, 11.7 chance of the playoffs right now. That can change a lot this week, and that's what this week is all about. It is the White Sox playoffs, and that isn't meant to be derogatory, like, they're not going to make the playoffs, so this is what they're playing for. But no, the playoffs begin early for the White Sox. This is a playoff series. They have to, at this point, realistically, they have to sweep Cleveland. They win 2 out of 3. They're still, Cleveland leaves town up 2 with the tiebreaker. That's trouble. There's just not enough time to make it up. Cleveland doesn't have a tough enough schedule. They have too many games at home. It's going to be, I mean, not to pop any balloons here, but it's really going to be a difficult hill to climb. So Chrystal, Elizabeth, as much hard math as I just threw down there, do you have a different take? Is there a way for the White Sox to win 2 out of 3 and still have a chance here? Or is this the statement they need to make to not only get themselves right into it, back into it? They won't have been first place at the end of the series, no matter what. Get themselves back into it and deliver a message that says, we're coming for you, Cleveland. Does it have to be a sweep?
Yeah, I think it does. But I also trust, because I know we've got Cease pitching this series. So I have a bit more trust that they can do it. And after seeing what happened, in Sunday's game with that kind of crazy offensive bats are hot game, I think they can do it. Cleveland isn't that great. I'm sorry. Yeah. But no, I do think they still need to sweep though.
Yeah, just to jump in before Elizabeth, the pitching matchups are as dynamite as they can be. Both teams are going after each other, which means, unfortunately, Lucas is not going to be pitching in this series unless Johnny Cueto is still lightheaded or gets sick again. We have Cease, Lynn, and Cueto scheduled as of right now. And I believe it is Savale, McKenzie, and Bieber for Cleveland. This is the battle royale. This is in a sense, it's not really playoffs for Cleveland, but they still have to fend off the Sox. So Elizabeth, your take on what is going to have to happen this week for the White Sox to be considered, still in it?
Yeah, I think the series in particular is going to be a good testament and kind of get the fans on board or be like, okay, we're done. Basically, our pitching has to be stellar. There can be no room for error. Our bats have to be hot and our defense has to be there. This is playoff baseball as far as I'm concerned. So I hope the fans that are lucky enough to attend these games, I'm so upset that I will not be at home in Chicago, treat it as such. If we get down early, don't quit on the team. They need the positivity. They need people cheering. They need to feel the energy. The stadium cannot be dead. They feed off of that. So do I think it's possible to sweep? Yeah, we're putting our best foot forward. And our bullpen has been great. The outcome that we had with Vince and Davis and everything else that we had going on, I think that we can do it. We have all the tools. It's just a matter of if they all fit together correctly at one time. And I think that's been the biggest key piece missing at different points in the season. So we're actually hitting home runs. I know Chuck always likes to say on post game or pre-game, we need more home runs. We're doing that. So if we can continue to do that, I think they have a good shot.
Yeah, the opener is the big advantage for the White Sox pitching matchup wise, and probably just momentum wise. The Sox are going to be a day rested. Cease big advantage over Savale. Savale's not been a bad pitcher by any stretch, but really of the 6 probably going in the series, he's probably he might be considered the weakest. So this is the time to really jump. But of course, conversely, if the White Sox can't pull that game out, it is going to make the rest of the series tough. And what Elizabeth is speaking to, it's going to be tough to get energy in that park, knowing the tiebreaker is gone. I mean, the Sox really do need to make a win's a win, but a statement would be great in that first game, because then that momentum starts to build. So what's the take here? Cleveland just very challenging. They've had a tough stretch. They've had to make up games. 5 games in 4 days, including a preposterous 22, 21 innings played on Saturday, I believe, with the extra inning game. They won 4 of 5 from Minnesota, which is no great feat given the Minnesota has already made all of their vacation and fishing expedition appointments for the off season, because they don't care. They are just absolutely mailing in. But the Cleveland, still, you got to show up, you got to play the games. They've done that. But you got to figure they're a little bit gassed, particularly that bullpen. You got to figure these guys are really going to be stretching, really trying to search for energy against a team that's not going to let up on them. Is this a nice advantage for the White Sox going into this series?
Well, I mean, technically he's been sick, but Cueto's had quite some time off too to rest. So you've got 2 of your best pitchers resting for an extended period. And truth be told, the only Cleveland pitcher I'd be concerned about is probably McKenzie. So, and that's Lance going against McKenzie, right?
Yes, that's the schedule,
I'm not super worried because they've had plenty of rest and they are finally hitting home runs again. So I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, Elizabeth, you think the Sox are going to have an opportunity to just jump on these guys because they're, I'm not going to say fumes because we don't know what the capacity of Cleveland is. They just might be able to keep digging and digging and digging. They could easily sweep the Sox. The Sox sweep them, but you got to know. I mean, there got to be some soreness right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've had frustrations, pitchers getting hurt from punching mounds, silly things like that. So I feel like one thing I will say, I did notice from our side in terms of frustration is Andrew Vaughn in the game that he hit the grand slam. He was not having good at bats during that game. He was getting frustrated. He came back to the dugout and kind of hit his bat down on the ground out of frustration, not like aggressive or anything like that, just kind of like a darn type of thing. And then his next at bat, he hit that grand slam. So I think it's just going to be a matter of like, how do you deal with being tired and frustration against a good team? I can't remember what player said it. I think it might have been Elvis, but you can't stay hot that long, especially when you've been playing as many games as they've been playing. They're probably running on fumes at this point. And to Chrystal's point, like Johnny has had a lot of rest, and I know he had to have been down for the count for him to miss a start. Like, he is just not that type of person that had to absolutely kill him. So I think he's going to come back with vengeance. He's been strong for this team all year long since he got on the team. It hasn't even been the whole year, which is so crazy. So I think that he'll be ready to go for his 3rd start. And I think that's just going to be the momentum push that they need to kind of carry out the rest of the games that they have. But it's a great start with Dylan. They tried to avoid him and he's starting for us. So in game 1, so I think it'll be great. And like you mentioned before, this is likely our playoff rotation when we get there. So it'll be a good kind of test run for us.
When we get there. Now that, Elizabeth,
gotta put it out there.
She is on the train.
If you don't say it out loud, you're not going to believe it.
That's
exactly. Manifest.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at this. We've just made this. We're turning this into motivational speeching. This is free. SB Nation Vox. This is free. You're just getting this for bonus.
I'm going to charge all my crystals and manifest.
Send your donations to P.O. Box. Okay. Let's chat a little bit about leadership on these teams. White Sox have struggled. There's no way around it. They've played 5 months of lousy baseball, but it only takes one, given how bad this division's been. Sorry, even Cleveland, you're not that far ahead of us, to make it right, to sort of erase it all. Cleveland's a young team. Certainly there are veterans on the team. Jose Ramirez, certainly been around now long enough to lead. I'm not sure what you'd say about the pitching leadership, given the fact that maybe the elder statesman on the staff can't stop hurting himself because he's a clown, having even his agency representing him drop him because he keeps hurting himself. Kopech, he's young to the game, still relatively so. He's had some hothead trouble in the past, and he's messed around a little bit this year and hurting himself. But I mean, he's still a young guy. He's not a Cy Young candidate yet. I'm not sure if I would buy too much of Cleveland's leadership, even given the experienced managerial hand of Francona. White Sox have Pito. Andrus, certainly, you got to throw in there, even though he's new to the team. You've got a guy like TA, he's with the team, whether he's actually playing in this series, he's there as a steadying hand. The White Sox have an advantage, do you think, in terms of this leadership mix? And, again, we don't have to necessarily deep six La Russa on this, but the fact that La Russa is not here and you're getting a fresh take, you're getting a clearly good vibe in the clubhouse with him not there, with Cairo running the show. Sort of that leadership and that calm and focus maybe advantage also to Chicago?
I think right now they've got leaders in Johnny Cueto and Lance Lynn, and maybe they're not the calmest on that squad, but I think they kind of need more chaos. I don't think they need calm. I think they need chaos, and that's what's going to fuel them. I mean, Elizabeth said it earlier, like they thrive off that crowd noise and that energy. And I think they just need chaos, and they need Johnny or Lance just screaming at them from the dugout to do something. So I think they have great leaders in them. And I think just being away and being in a more positive environment since Tony's left, since they all seem to be speaking on this, it's better, we're having more fun, we're winning thing. So I think they have two phenomenal leaders already that give them the chaos and energy that they need to pull through.
Yeah, you're not going to look to Pito for chaos. So yes, in terms of that, firing guys up, lighting a fire, and giving even some guys some red ass. If they're not doing what they need to be doing, yeah, I would definitely think Lance Lynn is probably first on the list. I'm not sure about Cueto, but Lynn is definitely. We've already seen him not hesitate to bark. Elizabeth, you think there's sort of a not maturity or anything, but just maybe a leadership advantage for the White Sox, just the mix that they have?
Yeah, I mean, to echo what Chrystal said, but also add on, like, I could hear them in the dugout. Like when one of them would get like a pop out or whatever, like they would come back to the dugout and you could hear guys razzing on them. Like they're chirping at each other, they're being playful about it, but they're also expecting better from each other. And I think that openness and that type of culture was maybe something they couldn't have before that they are now thriving on. Miguel's always at the top of the dugout. He gave multiple hugs to different players at the end of the third game. So I think different things like that during pitching changes, like Elvis was gathering everyone and visibly giving like tips, whether it was hitting tips or fielding tips or whatever he was doing. Obviously I wasn't in the conversation, but I could see him doing different motions to the guys, and everyone was paying attention to what he was saying. So all those different elements add up to the results that we're currently seeing. So, if they get down early, you better believe Lance Lynn is going to instill the fear of God in them, I think, because that's what he's good at. So I think they've got what they need in different people, but for sure the veteran leadership, I think, is definitely there.
Yeah, and these are guys who have been, if we want to call this playoffs, and boy, they better be thinking about it. That better be on the, on the dry erase board in the clubhouse. I mean, this is a playoff series. You got Lance Lynn, who's been the World Series. Cueto's been a World Series hero. Grandal's been in several playoffs. You've got guys who have the experience. Andrus, he says this is the best team he's ever played on. He's been on teams, other teams, not the White Sox, in the World Series. But these guys have been through these battles too. So that can only help this team in terms of, it's not like Andrew Vaughn doesn't know what to do. He's been an elite college player, clearly, but it doesn't hurt in terms of whether not to panic, whether when to, even what Elvis is doing out there on the field, just saying, okay, here, just little things. Could be helping. It could be too little too late, because you wonder maybe where some of that fire was, earlier when the Sox were giving games away and putting themselves in a position that even a sweep doesn't get them in first place as they kick Cleveland out of town this week. But I mean, better late than never. They're still within enough of a striking distance with limited games left that even that playoff experience in this very series, the White Sox playoff series, is only going to be a help. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything to add to that?
The Cairo experience, Elizabeth, you've spoken to the fact that you've seen a lot of, I mean, I think we've all seen it. We've seen his post game, talks. We've seen him walk this very delicate line where he's not going to, insult in any way, Tony, who's the reason he's here. But of course he's gonna answer questions, straight up, be honest about where things are at and what the team's doing. And as he took the team, he had the talk, the famous talk that Liam at least acknowledged as being like, hey, let's go out and fun. Well, we got a month left. There's nothing to lose. Let's go out and have fun now, which maybe was something missing for 5 months. Is this a guy who has successfully auditioned to keep this role in 2023? Let's say, goes without saying the rest of the year, because that's still up for question whether Tony comes back and takes the top spot, top rung of the dugout. But has Miguel done enough that the White Sox just roll with him in 2023 if it comes to that?
I don't know. One thing I will say, I've read a bunch of articles on different speculations of who should be the next fit for the White Sox. And one thing that I feel like is missing, or the articles don't discuss, is the Latin connection. I think our team is mostly Latin players, and there's a big disconnect. There's one thing to be able to speak the language fluently, but there's another thing to be able to relate to the players on that level of knowing what they're going through. And I think that has helped the team relate to him, because we do still have a lot of younger players that are dealing with different things. The thing about Yohan Moncada came out about how his family is not here, with Billy leading that coffee Q&A talk in Spanish. So I think there's a lot that could be said to having someone that can relate to the guys on that level. Whether or not he's earned a spot, I don't know. But I do think that that's interesting, because I do see him in pre-games and batting practice and things of that nature. He's out there with the guys, talking to them, bat in hand, doing lots of things. So
okay, to that point, Elizabeth, not to undermine the seriousness of the Comerica Park discussion or the White Sox playoff series this week, starting tonight with Cleveland. So not to end it on a goof note, but this also does play off what you just said. Okay, so it's a speed round. It's a two-pronged question. Is Jose Abreu going to be back with the White Sox, and is he going to be offered player manager the way they offered Paul Konerko a decade ago? Chrystal, please give me your answer.
No and no.
Okay.
I don't think he'll be back. I want to see him DH and on the Dodgers, so he can actually get a damn ring.
All right. Interesting to see if he'll go play anywhere else outside the White Sox. The White Sox are giving him a lifetime contract. He's at least an ambassador for the rest of his life. There's no doubt about that. Just what he's done already. He certainly will continue to work, with all the Latin players and bringing them. Listen, bringing Cuban players and Latin players into the organization. Okay, Elizabeth, it doesn't have to be a no. It doesn't have to be yes and yes. What do you think about Jose and his future?
As positive and optimistic as I am, I do not think he will be back. He's just too valuable, and he's getting to a point in his career where I would like to see him win a ring, because I like him as a person. He's like a big kid to watch him. I mean, he came sprinting into the dugout when he scored a run and literally almost ran into the wall. He's always yelling and doing weird things. To the point my mom was like, was that Jose? He's just so fun. And everyone loves him. So I want what's best for him, even if that means he's not wearing black and gray.
Yeah. He's yelling into the dugout before he's even scoring. He's yelling into the dugout. The interplay is wonderful. Okay. I said it just one podcast ago, and I'll say it now. He's not going anywhere. White Sox are not going to let him go. I don't know why. I mean, you can argue that's not the right move, et cetera, or that he should want to be somewhere else, like the Dodgers, where he can get an easy ring. I don't think the White Sox are going to let him go. We've already seen this behavior for guys who are over the hill. Jose Abreu is not over the hill, and he's still a productive player. And it's going to be, it's an impossible decision, because you got 800 first basemen in the system and DHs, but you've also got Jose Abreu, who's as productive as anyone on the team. So it's going to be a challenge. And I think that's always going to err on the side of family and bringing back a guy, even if maybe it isn't the smartest move for Jose or for the White Sox. Okay, well, with that goof question, but I don't think I bet you they will talk to him about being player manager. If they did it with Comerica, they will still talk to him about it. But then Tony gets to manage forever if he wants to. So, wow, I ended on a terrible note. I apologize for that. Elizabeth and Chrystal, thank you for joining me and our Southside Sox listeners. Let's talk about Detroit and the realistic chances the White Sox make the playoffs and winning the 2022 World Series, which is still possible. Thanks everybody for listening. Without all of you out there, we're not here. We'll be back with another podcast probably sooner than you're ready. Thanks everybody.